Welcome back to another Kray video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any videos. And for people really interested in the Krays, check out our private Facebook group, Krays Crime Lords of London. A direct link for the group is in the YouTube description section. We're a friendly and moderated group which has been running since January 2018. Come and give us a try sometime.
In the previous episode, Ronnie had shot and injured a young docker who had just bought a second-hand Austin 8 car for £120 from a local East End dealer. The guy wasn't happy with the car and wanted his money back from the garage, or he'd come back with his mates from south of the river and sort the dealer out. Ronnie had been called in by the dealer, and the docker had been summarily shot by the colonel, putting him in hospital. The question was now, what or who could save Ronnie from the police and almost certain arrest for attempted murder? And the answer had to be Reggie. In any other part of London, not even Reggie could have done this, but in the East End, if you knew the right man and had sufficient power, it was surprising what could still be done. Reggie knew many people, and the most useful was a portly man from Stepney with a stall in Brick Lane. His name was red-faced Tommy Plumley. He was the East End's fixer. He was an unlovable man, a slimy old devil, just like an old fat snake. One thing he knew was everybody's price. Reggie Kray telephoned. Redface took over. It was too late to stop the docker talking to the police. Dazed though he was from the anesthetic, he had given an account of what had happened. But later that afternoon, several friends visited him in hospital, all of them suddenly concerned with his safety. If he knew what was good for him, he would do nothing rash. Despite the police guard by his bed, the docker was soon distinctly worried. Next day, the police swooped and arrested a man on suspicion of the shooting. An identity parade was held that afternoon inside the hospital. The docker identified the suspect as the man who shot him, and the police went to charge him under the name of Ronald Kray. Now, for the first time, the arrested man objected. He wasn't Ronald Kray. His name was Reginald. His driving license proved it. He could also prove conclusively that on the morning of the shooting, he was nowhere near the car site. Prove it he did. Reggie's alibis were so strong that the police at Arbor Square could do nothing but apologize and send him home the next morning. After a blunder like this by the police, Ronnie was safe. The only people to be taken care of now were the site owner and Ronnie's driver. Here, Redface fixed things personally, paying a visit to the hospital in Bancroft Road. During his short chat with the docker, he stressed that the Krays were valuable friends and hard enemies, and that if he knew what was good for him, he would no longer be quite so positive about them on the morning he was shot. When the police pressed charges against the site owner, their chief witness's memory suddenly turned vague. So vague that he could no longer state for sure where he'd been shot or who was present or what really happened. Finally, the case had to be dismissed for lack of evidence. Redface was a tidy-minded man who liked to keep his promises. A policeman was discreetly rewarded. So were the docker's friends who warned him, and the car site man who drove him into hospital after the shooting. Finally, there was the docker to be taken care of, or rather, the ex-docker. With his left leg now an inch shorter than his right, it was clear that he would dock no more. Redface disgusted with him. The man's wife had always dreamed of opening a sweet shop and tobacconists of their own, but they had never had the capital. Redface understood. So, thanks to him, Ronnie's first shooting ended happily. The docker lost an inch of leg, but gained a sweet shop. Redface drew a good commission on the settlements, and the twins became more feared than ever, particularly Ronnie. The only man to lose was the car site owner, who paid well over £3,000 before he was through. As usual, it was Reggie who had the last word. If you're a straight man and start playing with fire, you must expect to burn your fingers once in a while. After the shooting, Ronnie seemed a bit like Superman, said a member of the firm. We were in awe of him. It seemed that there was nothing that he couldn't do and get away with. Reggie was different. Never knew where you were with him. Most of the time as good as gold. Talk anything over with you, understanding as you like. Then he turned vicious. Hard to know why he did. Just get these moods he would. He could be wickeder than Ronnie. Tension between the twins increased. Their arguments worsened. Ronnie was proud of what he had done and took delight in telling friends exactly how the shooting felt. It was obvious that he could hardly wait to repeat it. But Reggie's attitude was contradictory. Sometimes he seemed appalled by Ronnie's action. You must be raving mad, he would shout. You shoot a man, and then you leave it all to me to clear up. One day you'll get us hanged. But Reggie could appreciate his twins' excitement better than anyone. And he was vulnerable to Ronnie's taunts about his cowardice. All you're fit for's clearing up, Ronnie would mutter at him. You couldn't shoot a man if you tried. You haven't got the guts of a flea. Reggie was torn, as usual. Part of him wanted to steer clear of trouble, but another part longed for the chance to prove himself his brother's equal. When trouble started with a gang from Watney Street, Reggie did nothing to prevent it. Like most gangland feuds, this one appeared a fuss about nothing, but had its roots in deep resentment from the past. The WatneyStreeters were no real threat to the Krays. Most of them were Irish dockers. The twins called them weekend gangsters. They were young toughs who had grown up together, who worked and drank together, and operated various small rackets around the docks. They enjoyed a good Saturday night brawl when they had been on the beer, but they were descendants of the old-time Watney Street gang, which had always been the enemy of the ancient villains of Bethnal Green. That summer, Ronnie decided to shoot one of them, a boy called Charlie. Charlie was smart and had devised a foolproof little racket with a number of local post office drivers who relabeled parcels for him, sending them on to addresses where he could pick them up. Ronnie heard about it and, as usual, demanded 50% of the profits. Charlie agreed, but there was constant trouble over payments. Charlie went on the list. In the middle of 1956, the twins seemed to have got what they had wanted, a foothold in the West End at last. A man called Billy Jones, who worked in the docks, had taken over a West End drinking club off Cambridge Circus called the Stragglers. It was a good club, but also a popular place for fights. These were expensive, and they upset the law. To stop them, Jones's associate, the boxer Bobby Ramsey, suggested calling in the twins as informal partners. Ramsey had known them both for years. They were delighted, and Reggie Kray's cigarette punch soon put an end to the trouble. The Stragglers started to make money. Then there was suddenly a war. Jones had a fight with Charlie in the docks and was beaten up. The following night, Ramsey drove down to Limehouse in his large black Buick and beat up Charlie. 2 nights later, Charlie and a full gathering of WatneyStreeters cornered Ramsey in an East End pub called the Artichoke, dragged him outside, kicked and punched him, and hit him over the head with an iron bar. Ramsey recovered, but Ronnie felt that he was now involved. Jones and Ramsey were both known to be friends of the twins. Charlie was taking an extreme liberty attacking them after the trouble there had already been over the mail business. The Kray name was in jeopardy. Ronnie wanted another shooting, but Jones and Ramsey lacked the Colonel's single-mindedness. Finally, they agreed to make an example of Charlie and the WatneyStreeters, with the biggest beating one gang had inflicted on another in living memory. The twins did the planning together. Ronnie's secret service of small boys kept Charlie under constant watch. The Colonel could not resist choosing a gun for himself, just in case things went wrong. A revolver with dum-dum bullets. According to reports, the WatneyStreeters would be drinking at a pub called the Britannia the following Saturday. Cars were laid on from Eric Street for 9 p.m. Ronnie was the Colonel that night. Calm, all-powerful, full of the excitement of knowing that he could soon let himself go. He would become a soldier, glorying in action. He was invulnerable. He was the leader, a great man joining the ranks of other great men of history. He had chosen his raiding party from his dozen best men. Ramsey and Jones joined them. They set off, but just for once the Colonel's Secret Service failed him, or Charlie was smarter than they knew. As the large cars drew up in front of the Britannia, he and his friends escaped by the back entrance, leaving their drinks on the bar. When the Colonel entered, the only person to be seen was a boy called Terry Martin, who had rashly stayed behind to finish a hand of gin rummy with 3 friends. For the great man of action, one thing is worse than a defeat: fiasco. After all the preparations, the Krays had been made fools of by a bunch of Irish dockers. Still, they had someone. Ramsey believed that Martin had been there when he was beaten up. He would do, and was dragged out into the street. According to police evidence, Ramsey took over then. Gangland protocol demanded it. He had the right to his revenge. The others stood by as he slashed Martin twice over the back of the head with a bayonet and stabbed him in the shoulder. Then they closed in to kick him unconscious. It might easily have been murder. According to medical evidence given in court, it was only by luck that he survived. When Reggie called off the gang, they drove away, leaving Martin in the gutter. Someone unbolted the front door of the Britannia and peered out. It's all right. They've gone. The 3 men who were playing cards with Terry Martin trooped out and picked him up and drove him to the London hospital. The Colonel behaved very much in character. Anyone at all concerned with safety would have disappeared and concentrated on an alibi for the evening. But Ronnie was beginning his revenge. Blood had been shed, and the excitement was starting. Now was the time to find the whole of Watney Street. Ramsey was driving his Buick, Ronnie beside him directing operations, and the hunt went on round Stepney until the car was stopped by a police patrol soon after midnight. At first, the Colonel seemed to trust in his invulnerability. When the police found his revolver, he said, "Careful with it, can't you see it's loaded?" When they brought in the crowbar and machete from the car and pointed to the bloodstains on his shirt, he just shrugged. "I had a nosebleed." The twins had both escaped the law so many times, it must be possible again. Ronnie was not worried. Redface would fix things as before. Then came the news that Terry Martin could not be fixed. For once, the East End's code of silence was not working. At the Old Bailey, he would be the leading witness for the prosecution. Against this, there was not much to be done, and the most the defense could manage for the twins was to play the old game of tripping up witnesses over their identities. Reggie, who had been arrested with a blood-stained jacket, offered to take the blame, exonerating Ronnie. Ronnie pointed out that he had been found with a gun, and so had better take the whole rap. Reggie could keep things going while he was away. In the end, a clever defense counsel managed to create so much uncertainty over identifying the twins that the judge had no alternative to accepting Reggie's story that the bloodstains on his jacket might have come from watching sparring between boxers at the billiard hall where he was employed, and dismissing him from the case. For the Colonel, there was no escape. On the 5th of November, Guy Fawkes Day, the majesty of the law descended upon Ronald Kray, and the recorder, Sir Gerald Dodson, sentenced him to 3 years' imprisonment for causing grievous bodily harm to Terence Martin of Chapman Street, Stepney. 2 pairs of grey denim trousers, 3 blue and white striped shirts, a grey flannel prison jacket, prison-issue woolen socks, boots and cotton underwear, communal bath once a week with yellow soap, and a regulation short back and sides. The day that began at 6:30 a.m., with the bell clanging on the landing, and ended when lights went out at 9:30 p.m. From that 5th of November in 1956, a wet Friday, when the gates of Wandsworth Jail closed behind the black prison van, bringing the latest batch of prisoners down from the Central Criminal Court. This became the new life of Ronnie Kray. Nothing could have been further from the old life of drink and fights and easy money than the dingy monastery of Wandsworth Jail. Nothing more at odds with the dream world the Colonel had built round the Eric Street billiard hall and Fort Valence, yet he took to it surprisingly well. His mother worried that it would be terrible for him to be parted from his Reggie, but Reggie came in to see him on visits, and neither twin seemed unduly concerned at being apart. After the first day's gloom of settling in, the Colonel appeared very much his old self. This was partly because he had so many friends in prison that Wandsworth was something of a home from home, and although he was locked in a single cell on the ground floor of the main prison block after lights out, he had plenty of opportunity for renewing old acquaintances during the rest of the day. Next to him, in the workshop, where he sat 5 hours of the day officially making brushes, was his one-time cellmate and comrade-in-arms, ex-Fusilier Dickie Morgan, currently serving a 4-year sentence for hijacking a lorry load of meat. The same day at exercise, he met his boyhood friend Checker Berry, son of old Teddy Kid Berry, who gave him his first professional boxing lessons. The ordinary man who finds himself in prison gets his worst shock from the sudden contact with a jail world alien to life outside. For the professional criminal, this is not so. His society is one that stretches both sides of the prison wall. There is liberty one side, restriction the other, but the gossip and friendships are there in common, and Ronnie Kray had much the same status among the small core of professional criminals in Wandsworth Jail that he had enjoyed in the billiard hall and Bethnal Green. The great majority of prisoners were beneath contempt. They were essentially straight people who had come unstuck, as Ronnie said, by pinching somebody's bicycle or fiddling the books at the local fish shop. He wasn't interested in such riff-raff, and they took good care not to get involved with him. But there were a few professionals in Wandsworth who regarded their spell away as an interlude in their normal way of life. These men had heard about the Colonel and his returned prisoners' aid society. They knew that he had a brother outside who still commanded much power. And when their spell inside was over, they knew how useful the friendship of a gang like the Krays could be. Soon, life inside Wandsworth Jail was very cosily buttoned up. Reggie helped here. He had never shown himself more practical and efficient than when he set about organizing the well-being of his twin brother inside Wandsworth Jail. In theory, all prisoners are equal, apart from the privileges they earn by hard work and good behavior. No extra food or comforts can be sent in, and what money they earn by prison work goes into an account at the canteen to be spent on sweets or extra tobacco. But no society is able to subsist without a currency, even if a forbidden one. Once there is a currency, it can be manipulated to acquire privilege and power. The unofficial currency of every jail is tobacco. And Reggie Kray saw to it that his brother was tobacco rich from the day his sentence started. This was simple, but required organization. The first move was for Ronnie to find a number of non-smoking married men serving their sentence with him who had families somewhere in London, then to suggest a deal. If they would supply him with their spare tobacco, he'd arrange for their wives to be put on the Kray pension scheme. An ounce of tobacco would rate a £1 note for the wife outside. Reggie made certain that the money was paid regularly each week. Once Ronnie had all the tobacco he needed, he began using it to build himself a life apart from the rest of prison society. In his own eyes, he remained someone extraordinary. Even in prison, he could adopt a lordly attitude towards the petty chores of servitude. There was the question of work. Canteen earnings were geared to the number of brushes turned out each day, and a straight prisoner soon learned the knack of managing the pitch and bristles and earning a reasonable wage. Ronnie never bothered. Straight work was even more contemptible within prison than out, and he would buy brushes off other men in the brush workshop to fill in his minimum quota by the end of the day. Similarly with food, whenever he considered the food below standard, particularly the fish, which is universally loathed in prison, Ronnie would just refuse it, filling up instead with cakes and biscuits bought from the canteen by one of his pensioners. So Ronnie kept his private dream alive during these first months in Wandsworth, turning his prison life into a replica of life outside. A fantasy can be lived anywhere. He had his Batman and his servants to look after him. He had his group of followers who talked about the villainy they'd start when they were free. He had his silences, his moods, his periods when people would whisper among themselves that the Colonel was thinking and had best not be disturbed. Thank you very much for watching. That brings this episode to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please join our Facebook group. It's called Krays Crime Lords of London. We're a friendly moderated group with over 1,000 Kray and other celebrated gangster videos available for view. There's also thousands of images in the photos sections. The link for the group is in the YouTube description section. I hope we see you there soon.
Leave a like and subscribe.